Good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Monday, March 15th. We'll begin with a salute to the flag, please. All right, thank you. Mr. Rocco, can you call the roll, please?
Brian Galloway.
Here.
Boraski.
Here.
Dents.
Here.
Mr. Palmer.
Here.
I'm here.
All right, thank you. Before we start, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. Many might not realize it, but Mr. Guido Mariani passed away last month. Guido was a regular at our meetings. You know, sometimes he agreed with us, lots of times he had to give us a hard time, but he was a good friend, and he surely will be missed. So with that, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Item number 1 on our agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone for public comment tonight?
There's no public comment.
All right, that takes us to number 2, North Point Development LLC, Phase 1, preliminary and final land development. Mr. Clark, you want to get us started on this?
Good evening. Mike McGinnis here, behalf of North Point from Begley Carlin. We'll try to keep this brief if the board will allow us to tonight. I have a couple members of North Point's team with us, and also Eric Place and Greg Glitzer from Gilmore. This pertains to phase 1 of the North Point development project, which consists of, for this phase, developing a warehouse approximately 1 million square feet in size, what we still have classified as the mother parcel at the site, the 13-51-1 parcel. The net lot area in terms of acreage is a little over 100 acres. And we've really gone through the applicable review letters. Everything is a will comply. They're very clean. We have 2 standard waiver requests pertaining to existing features and curbing. And the only other substantive item that I would address at the outset that we would request with the board's consideration pertains to the planning module requirement. Typically, as I'm sure the board is aware, there's a note that the planning module gets approved by the board before construction on site. We're requesting the ability to enter into an agreement with the township that our office would work out, hopefully with Mr. Clark and Ms. Gallagher, and with the board's approval, to have an agreement that would permit us to begin construction, because we're not exactly sure at this time when we'll have the planning module approval in hand. Of course, we're not requesting any use and occupancy permits to be granted. We recognize that that would need to we need to have the planning module in place before there would be any UNOs issued. So that would be the amendment that we're requesting. Everything else, as I said, is a will comply. And I know you have a long agenda tonight, so I would like to very briefly turn it over to, I believe, Matt Gaston on North Point's end, just to provide a little bit more flavor with respect to the construction of the first building on this site. Well, first of what we hope to be many more going forward into the future.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for allowing us to present briefly. I'm going to share my screen very quickly and go through this first phase, this building 1 development. This is a very brief overview. The team that will be working on the Keystone Trade Center, it will be myself, Jed Momont, who you've been hearing from originally, who is our Chief Strategy Officer and went through the whole due diligence and transaction. Will still be involved. Tim Holliday, Director of Development out of Cincinnati, and then Jeremy Michael, Director of Development, and this will be his main project, and we'll be shepherding through each and every building through this site as we build out the site. Eric Jovanovic is our project manager, and he'll be moving out there in 2 weeks to manage horizontal development. Myself, Matt Gaston, I'm a development manager. I deal with the due diligence and then the initial entitlements of sites. Chris Chancellor is our Director of Engineering out in Kansas City. And then Dennis Jones was retained from U.S. Steel and is our director of port and manages the on-site operations. So as we go to the site, the orange is our highlighted phase 1 area. This is predominantly the old pipe mill area. The red area is the building 1 area, which we'll be talking about tonight. You zoom into the building area for building 1. It's just over 1 million square feet. It's going to be built 40 clear height. The total building height will be 49 feet. We've got 196 doors, 165 trailer parking stalls, 475 parking stalls for employees, 18 ADA spaces, and 4 drive-in doors. It will be concrete tilt-up construction, ESFR sprinkler systems, LED lighting, interior and exterior, of 41 interior parking landscaping trees. And then we'll have existing landscaping along River Road, and then an additional 17 trees. And then there'll be a native seed mix for the bioretention areas. We've got 2 waiver requests, which is just requiring curb along the main street at this time, and then requiring various existing features to be shown within 200 feet of the land development, which is a little bit outside of our purview on the site. And then just a quick overview of what the Keystone Trade Center, former KIPC. We've got a very strong team with Begley Carlin and Gilmore and Associates, and our own in-house architecture firm, Studio North. The site is approximately 1,800 acres, as you guys know. We'll be working to build this out with hopefully 15 million square feet and approximately $1.5 billion of total investment. This has the opportunity to create 5,000 to 10,000 jobs. And as you guys know, we executed a development agreement with Falls Township on December 21st, 2020, right before we closed on the property. On December 23rd, 2020, we finalized the transaction with US Steel. We're planning to start 3 million square feet this spring, and we look forward to building out the rest of the site. Just a quick overview of how trucks will be coming in from Tyburn and 13, and then the car traffic out to 1, and then over to 195 and 95. We've got the morning peak traffic is 60 trips for passenger cars, 20 trucks, and then the peak afternoon traffic is 90 passenger cars and 10 trucks. As you can see, the yellow, it highlights the truck traffic out to 13, which then will go up to 1 and then down to 95. A couple elevations of what this building will look like. All concrete tilt up, and it's gonna look basically like you see. We'll try to vary the colors and give a little texture to the building, so it's not just a plain box. And then here's some actual pictures of what the building will look like once it's finished. And these are buildings that we've got across the country in Kansas City and St. Louis, and yeah. So this is exactly what the building will look like when it's finished. And overall, this is our development timeline. We'll be submitting for our demo permit, and we expect to have our MPADS permit for mass grading and demo in April, start site work in June, shell construction in July, TCO January, full completion in February. And that's it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jones, Joe Jones, that is. You have any issues or questions or comments? Hello, Joe Jones.
You're on mute, Joe.
I apologize for that. Just the only comment I would make is that we worked extensively with their engineer Gilmore Associates to get the plans into a condition where they're at now, which is pretty clean. They satisfied all of our technical comments related to stormwater management and did a good job to to comply with all the township requirements.
All right, thank you. Board members, Mr. Rocco?
Matt, would you be able to distribute this to us? It's a nice summary PowerPoint here.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, that should be a problem.
Can we get that off the screen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Boraski, any comments or questions?
I just have one regarding the waivers. I can't really remember what, when we looked at the models and the overall site plan, when you guys were back in front of us back in December, but is the waiver for curbing going to be consistent as we go through this process through your development?
For the main roads where there's existing roads we're tying into, yeah, that's because mostly because of it's a grading issue and getting swells in and allowing the positive drainage on the site. That will be the overall site constraint.
Okay. I mean, I was just had, I guess I had a little bit of a vision of, employees wanting to walk on their lunch breaks and those types of things. So, but I was just kind of curious if there would be, curbs and sidewalks at all going forward,
We do have sidewalks, and that's covered, and it will be something that it comes up with respect to the subdivision, which is next. The development agreement, North Point's committed to installing sidewalks, and you'll see really on one end of the street as we move forward, we're going to have sidewalks installed throughout the park. It's an issue that's going to come up with the minor subdivision, where we're going to be proposing, when we eventually come in front of the board to build new construction across Center, that there's going to be an analysis, and really we're going to defer to the board and get their input as to which side of the street they'd want the sidewalks installed. But it is our vision and intent, and we've committed to installing sidewalks. So that is going to be something that takes place here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. That's all I have, Mr. Dents.
Mr. Galloway?
No, just it's very exciting news, and can't wait till you get started and get it going. Thanks.
Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, on the energy conservation in the plan, you mentioned your roofs are going to be large flat roofs, ideal for green roof and solar panels. Can you elaborate on that with this phase one?
Where is that mentioned?
You're on mute, Mr. Palmer.
Sorry, page 3, underneath the planning. You submitted to us in this process here. Page 3 under Bucks County Planning Commission memo. Number 10.
Moment, because it's our own electrical grid. It's hard to incorporate solar at this time, and green roofs would be really hard to incorporate in this climate. So that will not be incorporated in this initial phase, but will continue to be evaluated.
So how's it going to be incorporated in other phases if you have your own power plant?
This is Jeremy Michael with North Point, and sorry to jump in here, Matt. I would just say, from a speculative standpoint, the spec warehouses that we're developing, I think Matt made a correct statement that it is tough to make the financials work with the way that the current electric structure is set up. But we have seen a lot of interest on build-to-suit activity from different tenants coming in, a lot of which have, requested and inquired about solar for the roof structure. So, on a go-forward basis, I think there'll be a lot of, future interest in that, and we'll continue to evaluate that as we develop the rest of the park.
And Mr. Palmer, I think, and someone on North Point's team, whether it's Jeremy or Jed or Matt, can discuss some of the environmental improvements that we're anticipating to be able to bring to the site. But I believe you're referencing a recommendation from the County Planning Commission in the Bucks County Planning Commission review letter at point number 10, where the Planning Commission is encouraging us to North Point to use alternative forms of energy generation. And it's a recommendation, I believe, that's come from the county rather than something that was submitted with anything that North Point has formally proposed. Although I can say that when we did have a discussion and a presentation in front of the Planning Commission, we did have a conversation about some of the environmental initiatives that we're undertaking on site, above and beyond the remediation. But I don't think when we're discussing the green roof concept, I don't believe it's anything that North Point specifically has submitted either to the township or the Planning Commission. And someone on North Point's end can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Jed or Matt.
Yeah, Mike, that's accurate. I think it did come up in a planning comment. And, we've looked at installing solar panels on a number of our different projects throughout the US, and they can be installed on the building. And I think Jeremy was right. And it's typically a tenant-driven decision. It's not one that we as a developer put onto our buildings in a spec fashion. So long story short, the buildings are equipped to have solar panels, have solar arrays installed on the roof. And it's in very few markets that actually makes sense. And most of those markets are on the West Coast and have, greater than 230 days of sunshine a year. So this is probably not a market that, I think it'll gain much traction, but the buildings are set up like that in case a tenant has a sustainability goal. So some tenants do have sustainability goals where that's a real factor, and our buildings are set up to accommodate.
Thank you.
All right, that covered most of my questions as well. Lauren, do you have anything to add?
No, I would just, if the board is agreeable to council's suggestion regarding the planning module, then we would just need to amend the resolution accordingly. So Mr. McGinnis and I can work on that tomorrow to get that resolution finalized.
Ms. Gallagher, who's taking the risk with that amendment for planning module?
The applicant is. The rest will be all on theirs, because if they're unable to secure their planning module approval from DEP, then they have constructed a building that they are not going to be able to use. They will not get any use and occupancy certificate until that final approval is received.
Okay, so no risk for Falls Township then.
Correct. And we're putting together a separate agreement that'll likely be in front of the board next month that will lay out the different consequences should applicant fail to get their approvals from DEP.
Okay, thank you.
I know we do have one public comment, so is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I know we have Tony, is that correct?
That is correct. We're getting her in here now. Okay, Tony's in the room now.
Hi, Tony.
Can you hear
Hi,
me?
Tony. Yeah, hi.
Hi. Okay, just two questions. The first is, on your drawings, you have bioretention basins. Are these regular like drainage ditches that are just for heavy rainfall kind of thing? Or is that bio something else?
They're considered rain gardens. They're planted with a lot of different types of materials. What it is for large storm events, and even if it's from the 1 year all the way up to the 100-year storm event, the water washes off into these basins, and the water then gets cleansed as it's absorbed into the ground and then released back into the ground. Or the large storms just go through an outlet pipe at a slower rate than is typical for a normal runoff.
Okay, I was just a little concerned about the bio part. Second thing is, how many trucks can be at the docks if all the spots are filled? And you might have said that, but I missed it.
Yeah, 194 is a maximum number of dock doors that could potentially be installed in the building. Likely,
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
That's all. All right, thank you, Tony. All right, is there, I guess that's everything. So we have a resolution 2021-8. Is that correct, Mr. Takita?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, is there a motion to approve the amended resolution 2021-8?
I make the motion to approve the amended resolution.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right, congratulations. One down, 14 to go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Should I roll into the subdivision or do we need to set that up?
No, we're gonna roll right in. Item number 3. North Point Falls Township Industrial LLC, minor subdivision, Centaur Road. Go ahead, Mike. You
Great,
got it.
thanks. I'll dispense of the introductions. This is for a 54-acre subdivision off of the mother parcel. There's no new construction that's proposed. I think the board's familiar with the area that we're subdividing. It's adjacent to Center Road, and the parcel is going to be utilized as a wastewater treatment plant and their operations for MMA. Everything in Joe's letter, again, is a will comply. We have it denoted as 3 waivers. It's folded into 2 waivers by the township because the natural resource protection waiver and the soils waiver, that's considered 1 waiver. And then the monuments is a 2nd waiver. The one note I would make about our waiver request is when it comes to the natural resource protection and the soil species, trees and slopes, those are really just deferrals. We're not asking for full waivers. Those are going to be taken care of when we come back in front of the board for development adjacent to Center. The only real waiver request pertains to monument installations, and the only reason why we're asking for that waiver is because it's really not possible to install the monuments given the high water mark of the Delaware. So that's our substantive waiver. The other one's a deferral. And the only other item I would note we addressed with our last presentation was sidewalk installation. Mr. Jones' letter covered it correctly, that we're acknowledging and committing to installing sidewalks in the park. Our only comment was, since we're not proposing new construction and given that the parcel that's here is a wastewater treatment facility, what we're suggesting might make sense is when we come in front of the board for construction adjacent to Center, there be an analysis as to where the board would prefer the sidewalks to be installed. So we are going to install the sidewalks. We're just asking for the sidewalk installation to be done in tandem and in conjunction with our submission for construction adjacent to Center. Everything else is a will comply, and I think we maybe have a 4-slide presentation for the minor subdivision that I believe Matt has queued up, if I can turn it over to him.
Thanks, Mike. I'll share my screen real quick. Thank you, everybody, again, for allowing us to present quickly. This is for the subdivision of the wastewater treatment plant. As you can see, the wastewater treatment plant is in the southwest corner of the site, next to the port, the Kinder Morgan port. As Mike mentioned, we got 3 waivers. 2 of them are just deferrals. The only real one is the monuments because of the high water mark of the river. We're subdividing this site, this 54-acre parcel, to transfer to Morrisville Municipal Authority to begin the process of permitting and construction for the new wastewater treatment plant for the authority. The new facility replaced the aging and outdated facility that is currently serving the site and MMA customers in the region. MMA plans to have the facility operational within the next 4 years. And this is a very preliminary rendering of what the new wastewater treatment facility will look like at the site. And as Mike said, it would be very brief, and those are the 4 slides. So thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
All right, this is pretty straightforward, dividing this land up for the new Morrisville Municipal Authority water treatment plant. For those that aren't aware, there already is a plant there, a very outdated plant. So this isn't something new to the area. It's replacing an existing one. Are there any issues with any of the waivers, Mr. Jones, or any other comments you'd like to add? Is he still here?
No issues, Mr. Chairman, no issues with the waivers and no comments.
Okay, Mr. Takita, do you have anything to add?
No comments.
All right, board members, Mr. Rocco,
I have none.
Mr. Palmer,
Nothing.
Mr. Boraski,
Nothing.
Mr. Galloway.
No questions.
I will add that there is an agreement between the Township of Falls Authority and Marsville Municipal Authority that does compensate the Township of Falls Authority. So this is a good thing for Falls Township residents. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
No public comment. All right, is there a motion to approve the minor subdivision?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, guys, that was easy.
And this would be resolution 2021
This is a resolution, I'm sorry. Number 9, right?
correct.
Do we have to do anything, Lauren? Ms. Gallagher?
No, you already voted and the resolution will be approved with that vote.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that.
Can we also get this PowerPoint also sent to us?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much. Great. Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 4, Tavo Properties LP, preliminary and final land development. Who wants to take this one? Is there anyone here from Tavo?
They are coming in now.
Okay, we'll give them a couple minutes. That everyone, guys?
Believe so.
Okay, we can get started when you're ready.
Great. Nate Fox with Obermeyer on behalf of Tavo Properties. With me this evening is David Taylor of Tavo Properties and Daniel Humes of Van Cleef Engineering. We're here this evening. Also recognize you have a large agenda, so we'll do a very, very brief summary. My client is the owner of a property located at 2 Canal Road. 2 Canal Road, tax map parcel 13-47-126-1, being 11 acres in the PIP zoning district. We are looking for 8 waivers for including preliminary and final approval to construct a 77,100 square foot addition to our existing property. And these are all what we would call typical waivers. One for preliminary final, another from the traffic impact study, another from cartway width to allow that to remain 48 feet, a partial waiver for parking within 12 feet of the property line, another waiver for parking setback from the right-of-way, another waiver related to parking from curbed raised planting beds, and another from planting street trees, and finally, a partial waiver for existing features within 200 feet of the property. We've received recommendation from the Township Planning Commission for our waivers, and we're provided with a resolution in advance of the meeting setting forth these waivers, which my client has agreed to in full and has returned executed to the township. We're happy to provide any further information or further explanation if you'd like anything else to be discussed, or that's the sum and substance of what we're looking for this evening.
All right, this seems pretty straightforward. It sounds like a lot of waivers, but they are pretty basic and straightforward. Any comments or concerns, Mr. Jones?
No, Mr. Chairman, again, we've worked over the last month and a half with the applicant and their engineer to resolve all of our technical issues.
Mr. Takita, anything from your end?
No comments.
All right, Mr. Rocco,
As far as waivers, it all seems standard. I was kind of curious as to what Tabo does, actually.
It's cardboard packaging and printed cardboard packaging. But Dave, do you want to elaborate that a little more eloquently than I just did?
Sure. We're manufacturer folding cartons. So if you go to Dunkin' Donuts, Taco Bell, KFC, and you get a box at the drive-through, a dozen donuts, a Munchkin box, we manufacture them.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Straightforward.
Much
All right.
better than I did.
Mr. Palmer, anything from you?
Yeah, I have two. Just coming off of the North Point discussion, there's going to be a lot of truck traffic and car traffic taking Tyburn Road. You're asking for a waiver of the traffic study. Is that taken in consideration?
Yeah, yes, that was, and that's been discussed throughout the process leading up to this. Dan, would you mind providing a little more depth and background to the things we've considered and why the traffic study isn't necessary for our addition?
Yeah, certainly. So the traffic study is actually limited to typically requested at a 50,000 square foot building addition expansion. This is 77,000 on top of an existing, I believe it's 165,000 square foot existing building. Primarily the space that we're asking for here is really all warehouse space. And that's for the paper products coming and going. They receive and ship through the rail facility out in the back of the building, as well as the existing, I believe it's 8 bay doors for tractor trailers on the front of the building. This expansion only has 2 additional truck bay doors, and we really don't anticipate much more truck traffic than previously, than previously seen at the site. Again, what the owner's ultimately doing is expanding the warehouse space and moving some of the equipment around internally to better manufacture and ultimately process the cardboard throughout the facility and make improvements that way. Again, we really don't anticipate any additional trucks for the site. 1 or 2 here or there, it just didn't, in our opinion, warrant a full traffic study.
Okay, I'm happy with that answer. The other point is the planting of the street trees. What is the rationale behind that? Why you feel you don't need to help out with the street trees? And if you're willing to, donate them to the Shade Tree Commission if there's a reason why on your property you can't plant it.
And Dan, do you mind jumping
Yeah,
in again
absolutely.
about what trees we're talking about and what we're looking at?
Certainly. So along Newbold Road, there's existing Pico overhead lines. Street trees ultimately there wouldn't be beneficial for the township or for the owner. And as well as Canal Road, there's also overhead utility lines there. On top of it, there are underground utilities in both areas, and ultimately the site distances are required for each one of the entrances to the facility. Don't really allow for street trees again for those purposes. Currently, there are no street trees along the property. We're not proposing to remove any, and ultimately what we are doing at the corner is creating an above ground stormwater management facility that will maintain grass and be a natural kind of feature for that corner. So again, street trees really they don't work with the overhead utility lines. That was the primary reason. And the secondary reason is ultimately the existing parking lot is so close to the ultimate right of way that there's no room for them. The expanded parking lot, which we went through the zoning hearing board process to ultimately allow that expansion, follows in line with the existing parking lot in terms of the distance from the street. So again, really, there's just no room for the street trees to be planted.
And also, all of our work here is in the rear of the building, correct? So we're not doing anything that would require any sort of buffering or streetscape change to mitigate anything we're doing. Is that fair?
Okay, the second part of the question, would you be willing to donate the trees to the Shade Tree Commission.
I think that's more of a question for the owners. I don't believe that was something that we considered as we ultimately requested the waiver again because there wasn't room to place them.
I don't see a reason why we wouldn't. We love trees.
I love them too.
So could that be something we discuss with Mr. Jones and staff during our land development, dialing in on a number and an
Absolutely.
agreed upon?
Yep, you guys
Dave,
work it out.
So we'll work that out within our development agreement.
Is that it, Mr. Palmer?
I'm done, thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
More of a comment. It was great to see you guys here tonight, really. The business has been around in Falls for some time now, and it's nice to see that sizable addition being put on the back. So keep doing what you're doing and wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, just echo that. Glad to see your business is growing. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. I know we have one public comment, I believe. Is that right, Erica?
Yes, we do. We're going to bring Tony back now.
All right.
Tony's back in the room with us.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. Okay, looking at the drawings that were posted online, it looks like there's several lagoons and infiltration ponds, and some may be already there, but some look like they're intending to go in. And I'm wondering what's going to be in those infiltration ponds and lagoons.
So I'll take that question. Ultimately, there are two infiltration facilities. The one is actually a below grade facility. It's on the left of the plan or the north side, right adjacent to the proposed warehouse. Ultimately, those roof leaders will drain underground into a pipe and stone system that allows water to infiltrate into the ground, recharging the water table, cleaning the water as it filters through the clays and dirts that exist. And the other facility is out by the corner of Canal Road and Newbold Road, and that will be an above ground infiltration facility, similar in concept, where the stormwater flows to this facility. It fills up the facility for larger events and allows the water to infiltrate through the soils back into the groundwater table. On larger storm events, it will flow out of an outlet structure or an emergency spillway and into the township's maintained storm sewer system, inlets and pipes that exist in the street. Ultimately, what we're proposing is far reduced rates and volumes from the previous or pre-existing conditions that, again, Joe Jones's office and myself worked out thoroughly to make sure those rates and volumes were reduced. So hope that answers your question.
Okay, so they're not any kind of wastewater?
No,
just
no, certainly not.
stormwater.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was all then.
All right. I guess that's all then. So this will be resolution number 2021-10, correct, Mr. Takita?
That's correct.
All right, is there a motion?
I make that motion.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, congratulations, guys.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Look,
Thank you.
All right, item number 5 is a conditional use hearing. Ms. Gallagher, do you want to walk us through this?
Certainly, and I see Mr. Prosha, and I hope I'm not butchering your last name, is here tonight. You are muted, though. We can't hear you. There we go.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
No, you did the name perfectly. Thank you so much.
Great. And we do have Ms. Browndorf here as our court reporter. So if we want to go ahead and open the hearing, I will do the introduction and then turn it over to Mr. Proscia.
All right, is there a motion to opening the conditional use hearing?
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a conditional use hearing related to an application requesting conditional use approval to allow property located at 84 Everturn Lane, Levittown, Pennsylvania, Bucks County Tax Map Parcel 13-026-033 to be used for a single chair hair salon in addition to the existing single family residence on the property, which is located in the NCR zoning district. This matter was originally scheduled for a hearing at your February meeting, but that was continued to allow the applicant to provide notices to the neighboring property owners as required by the zoning ordinance. The applicant has submitted those notices to our office for review, and we have found them to be in a form that's acceptable for this evening's consideration. We have also included a copy of the advertisement for this hearing, as well as the proof of publication, or I'm sorry, the proof of posting. The property was posted prior to the February hearing, and it was also posted last week in an abundance of caution for tonight. Mr. Proscia, the court reporter, will swear you in, and then you can walk the board through your application this evening, and I'll follow up with any other questions that I might have, and then we'll turn it over to the board for any additional questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Proscia, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Could you please state your full name and spell your last name?
Stephen John Proscia, P like Paul, R-O-S like Sam, C Charlie, I India, A Alpha.
Thank you.
And do you have any other witnesses that will be testifying this evening, Mr. Proscia?
My daughter Ella, if there's any questions, it'll be her salon ultimately.
Okay, so then we can probably have Ella sworn in too, so that she can just jump in if necessary.
Ms. Proscia, do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay, could you just spell your first name, please?
E-L-L-A.
Okay, thank you.
And the township will mark the application as Exhibit T1. And with that, Mr. Proscia, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope everybody's having a nice evening. I hope you received the packet that describes the property and the maps. I certainly won't have a presentation as great as the first person you had on tonight. As far as the technical drawings, but I have plenty of information to give you. I apologize for continuing the last meeting. We did present notification to the neighbors, but I did forget one of my neighbors, which is backs up to my property and kind of a place where I don't think I didn't even think of it. So they've been notified. I did get all of my neighbors to sign an okay to the proper to what we're trying to do. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read that as kind of our mission statement, or at least a description of what we're trying to do here. Is that okay?
It is.
Okay. Excuse me if I'm a little bit nervous. Beauty 84 is a hair salon located at 84 Everturn Lane, Levittown, PA 19054, and is designed to accommodate one client at a time by appointment only. The salon will have a private street-facing entrance and be equipped with one chair for hair services, a wash basin for hair care, a lavatory, and laundry facility. Designated parking will be provided for off-street parking, eliminating traffic problems in front of the salon. Hours of operation will be determined by the needs of the clients and the availability of the salon. The intent of the salon is to have the least amount of negative impact to the neighborhood as possible while providing a necessary service to those in need. That's the whole idea of what we're trying to do here. Is anybody have any questions about that?
It's pretty straightforward.
Do you want to know about Elle's background, or do you want me to present the drawings?
I think we've seen the drawings. I think I'm just gonna see if the board has any questions. I'm gonna comment that I live on Independence Drive and there's a gentleman right down the street from me who opened a barber shop in his garage. He converted his garage several years ago and, nobody even knows it's there unless you drive by, and if you don't know it's there, you would never notice. There's zero impact and he doesn't even have all-street parking. So, it's pretty straightforward. So Mr. Rocco, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I think it seems pretty straightforward, and I wish you, the best of luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Palmer,
I have none.
Mr. Boraski,
I have no questions. Good luck to you guys.
Thanks a
Mr.
lot.
Galloway.
I have no questions.
That was easy. Doesn't get any easier. Is there any public comment? No?
There's
Mr.
no
Jensen,
public
if I can real quick,
ahead.
Mr. Proscia, at the Planning Commission, there was discussion regarding the condition in the zoning ordinance that has to do with only allowing for one unrelated employee of the business. And are you agreeable to that condition?
I absolutely am. Yes, I'm absolutely agreeable to it. I thought it made total sense.
Okay. And you've had an opportunity to review the zoning ordinance with the specific standards for conditional use applications, and they're all agreeable to you as well?
Yes, they are.
I have nothing else.
All right, Mr. Takita, do you have anything to add?
No comments.
All right, so all we need is a motion then, Ms. Gallagher?
You can close the public hearing and then vote on the application itself.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, is there a motion to approve the conditional use on Everturn Lane for the beauty salon?
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Wow, we're only on number 6. Consider stipulations to settle an appeal. I need my glasses. Of Surguard Storage Center Incorporated. This is a appeal to the Pennsbury School Board. Correct, Ms. Gallagher? Or you
So
didn't
this-
do this, did you?
Yeah, so this is a tax assessment appeal. They are largely negotiated by the school district because they do obtain a majority of the tax dollars that come into the township from any resident or from any property. So the school district has approved this proposed settlement, and it's being offered to you this evening for consideration, as well as it does require all 3 taxing bodies to approve.
Okay. And I think we're going to see a lot of these coming forward. Is that right, Mr. Takita?
Yes, we will. This year, you'll see a few coming through on every meeting, probably.
Right. So as people appeal their assessments. So any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Rocco,
No, I have none.
Mr. Palmer,
None.
Mr. Boraski,
No questions.
and Mr. Galloway.
No questions.
All right. I have no questions. So is there, what are we doing here? We're voting to do what?
You're
To
approving
approve
the
this?
settlement, you're approving the settled agreement.
All right. Is there a motion to approve this settlement agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. 7, item number 7, consider an agreement with Millennium Strategies LLC for grant writing opportunities for Falls Township. Mr. Takita.
The board is being asked tonight to consider the approval of a 1-year agreement with Millennium Strategies for grant writing services under the same terms and conditions as the previous year. The rate for these services is $3,000 a month. The terms of the contract, it can be terminated at any time with a 14-day notice. Last year, we did receive $1,200 in grant funding, but it was not a good year for anyone to really show what they're capable of. We do have a lot of projects right now that are in the queue for grants, and I'd like to extend their contract for another year.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Takita? Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, so I was going to actually ask that. Thank you for providing that. So 1,200 in grants last year,
Correct.
and we paid them 36,000.
Right. So currently we have $174,000 in grant applications that have been submitted and are pending review. And then there was another 67,000 that were grant applications that were submitted that were denied last year.
Okay.
So there's a lot of activity. There's a tremendous amount of activity with this group. It's just not much yield at this point. I'd like to try to give them one more year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm good with one more year. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
How does our agreement work? Do they reach out to you? Do we reach out to them? And who's the point of contact?
I'm the point of contact, and then I'm the primary point of contact. But if a certain department has a project, they're also looped in as a secondary point of contact. They continuously look for grants. So every month they'll give us a list of possible grant opportunities that they think may fit. And now at the very beginning of it was just last week we met to go over strategic planning for the following year to see what projects we might be considering so they can start looking for those specific grants. So every month we get an update on what's incoming and then the status of all the grants we have applied for. So they're proactive in their approach.
Thank you.
Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Boraski?
Mr. Skita, just one question. I know that they represent for one of our neighboring townships. Did they also struggle with getting grant money in return?
As of last year, I did not follow up with that other township, but that other township did highly recommend this group.
Again, for a second year?
I did not speak to them regarding the second year. Yeah, it was the initial contract.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm willing to do it for one more year, give it a shot. Last year was a really weird year for everybody. I don't know what kind of grants were out there for anything, but knowing how we dealt with last year, I can imagine it was a problem for everyone. So, is there a motion to approve the grant writing agreement?
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Rocco, can you pull the board?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Comment?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to do public comment on this item?
I'm sorry, is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
All right, Mr. Rocco, can you pull the board?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you.
All right, item number 8 is a tree trimming. We spent a lot of money the past few years tree trimming. This was a project or a program that started for the, excuse me, one second, I'm sorry. Sorry, my dog was trying to get out. We started this program in the Township Park and it grew way beyond the park. It's a lot of money we spent on this. I don't know, I didn't even look at the bids that came back, but this is something that I'd like to consider putting on hold this year until we reevaluate what exactly we're doing. Maybe even hire an arborist to, evaluate some of the trees in the township. The conservation that we have to do, we're not only removing trees, but we're due to, it's our duty to replace trees that we remove. And I'm not sure that's even happening. So I'd like to put this on hold for a year and we can discuss this again, maybe go back to it if we have to. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or comments about that?
No, I agree with you on that, and maybe an arborist and a plan on what's out there, what we have, and how to deal with it.
Yeah, especially planting trees, because I know when we take trees down, a lot of them are in developments and so forth where we have to put them back because they were on the original plans. That was pointed out to us last year. Any other questions, Mr. Rocco?
I guess the only question I would have is for emergency situations. Do we approve this as is, just for emergency situations? Because we're always going to need that.
What do we do in emergencies, Ms. Gallagher? We can call anyone?
Is Mr. Lawson on here? Maybe he can help us out.
Well, we're waiting for Jason to sign on. Obviously, if there is a true emergency, then the township is able to deal with that on an individual basis.
Yeah, there you go.
I think what was nice about the contract, if that's what they work off of this, and when we approved this, it was setting their fees and their rates. They couldn't just come in at 2 in the morning and gouge us.
Right. So I think that, and I can take a second look, but I believe that the contract is set up so they only come in when we call them.
Right.
Right, to Mr. Rocco's point, we would want to move forward and do this. And I'm okay with what Mr. Dent's saying. I don't know if we necessarily need to wait a year. We can get started on an arborist and start evaluating this and revisit this in June or July.
Yeah, but let's not spend any money until we
Right.
do that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
How many
do we
emergencies did we
still-
have last year? Do we know?
But do we still need to approve this tonight for if a tree falls, you know?
Yeah.
We, at this point right now, we do have about 7 or 8 trees that need to come down. They're totally dead and falling on people's properties and shit.
Where are they at, Jason? Do you know?
They're behind Evertide Lane, is it? Over by Willwood that backs up there to the creek. So they're falling, we need a Pico shutdown. That's one thing, which Pico was supposed to come out in August and they never came out. But they're dead. I mean, we can do it. I mean, with, approval from the manager, send an arborist out there and, get approval before. But I mean, they're dead. They're totally dead. So, I mean, approving.
Jay, let me.
Are they on that they're totally dead? And why didn't we cut them down last year if they're totally dead?
Because we need a Pico shutdown and Pico never came out to shut it down.
Let me just interrupt real
Clark,
quick. If we approve this, why are we? There's nothing to say we're spending the money. If we have trees that need to come down or dead, they're come down. Like there's nothing in this contract that says we're guaranteeing spending any money. Correct? We're just
Correct.
approving contractor with the best rates is all we're doing.
Yes, that's all. We're not guaranteeing them any work at all.
Yeah. We're just guaranteeing the rates of the whoever gave the best rates in this bid process.
Well, it seems that's how we started a few years ago with the park, but I'd like to know how much we've spent in tree removal in the last, say, 2 years. It's occurring now all around the township, and there doesn't seem to be a plan for how we're executing it.
I think in the past years, weren't we approving like up to 75,000 or up to 125,000? And we had a number. This strictly just says if a tree comes down or if we have tree removal, this is guaranteed rates.
Yeah. The township had, and it's still, and I can admit that there's still not a plan in place. It's basically where dead trees are falling on the properties is where we go. But there's no tree maintenance ever done in the township before I even got here. And that's why we're so far behind, I believe. But no, I mean, and we've had the discussions about trying to get a plan in place, and so I'm all in favor of that. So I'm just worried about the trees that need to come down. And I mean, the main priority is getting Pico on board to do the shutdown. I mean, they need to shut it down. They give us a date and then they don't come out.
Mr. Clark, do you have any comment?
Well, you don't need to act on this this evening. Under the bid, we have 45 days to act. So if you want to take a look at this and get more information before next month, you can. I also think one thing that would probably need to be done is we need a little bit more clarity regarding who is authorizing this company to actually be going out and taking down trees, whether or not that's done by Mr. Lawson, whether that's done by Mr. Takita. I think you'd probably want to clarify that, but you have till next month if you want to.
Let's have a
I'd also like to
conversation about
clarify
this
what the agenda. Can we clarify what the agenda item is? Because the same thing, I'm confused here. We're just approving a contractor, a tree trimming contractor, in case the township needs someone. That's what this is about, right?
Yeah, they were required to give.
Because Mr. Clark was clarifying that we're also who's approving it. I get that, but this isn't about spending money right now. This is just about having a contractor's rates secured for the 2021 season if we need them. That's all this agenda item is about.
Correct. I agree.
Okay,
I think we should approve it tonight, and I think there's some, you know, there's a lot of other homework that needs to get done.
what did we do for the last month if we didn't have this contract? Were they still under contract from last year or anything like that? Or is this
No,
just for the year?
their contract ended December. So if we would have called them in, they could have charged us whatever.
All right,
So I guess I'd like to make a motion to approve this bid to, what's the recommendation? Kent's, I guess?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, the recommendation is for Kent's Quality Tree Service.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Rocco can pull the board.
Mr. Galloway,
No.
Mr. Boraski,
Yes.
Mr. Dents,
No.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
All right. Item number 9 is the. I'm sorry, let me make this again. 9 is intent to award the bid for the Falls Township Community Park Hockey Rink Improvement Project. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe the board members have in their packets our bid evaluation. We opened bids publicly for the Community Park Hockey Rinks Improvements Project on March 11th. We had one bid. It was from General Asphalt Paving Company, the bid amount of $110,021.50. Our recommendation to the board tonight is to reject the bid due to the fact that it's over the budgeted amount, and allow us to modify the scope of the project, re-advertise, and submit invitations to bid to other contractors to make it more competitive. We think if we do that, we'll be able to bring the project back into a reasonable distance from the original budget.
All right, so we're gonna make a motion to reject all bids. Any comments from board members?
None.
Palmer? Mr. Boraski?
No.
Mr. Galloway?
None.
I have none. I saw Mr. Rocco shaking his head no, so I assume that means no.
Oh, yeah, that means no.
All right, and there's no public comment needed. Correct, Erica?
No public comment.
All right, so is there a motion to reject all bids?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item number 10, consider a 2021-22 stone and asphalt bids for Falls Township. Mr. Takita?
Yes, the Bucks County Consortium Road Material bid was opened by New Britain Township. The results were forwarded to Falls Township. The Board of Supervisors is being asked to consider the Consortium Road Materials bid to 2 different companies. One, the stone and aggregate items to Eureka Stone Quarry Incorporated. The blacktop and binder material to Eureka Stone Quarry Incorporated, and the cold patch material to American Asphalt Company Incorporated.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Takita from board members? Mr. Rocco?
None.
Mr. Palmer?
None.
Mr. Boraski?
No.
And Mr. Galloway?
None.
And there's no dollar amount, right, Mr.? We're not actually spending money.
That's correct.
All right. Is there a motion then to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you.
Item number 11. Consider purchase of a new vehicle for the police department. I believe Chief Whitney is here to explain this one to us. Chief?
I am, yes, Mr. Dent. So this is a vehicle for use in our detective division. It's for the purchase of a 2020 Ford Fusion that's replacing a 2008 Chevy Malibu that has high mileage on it. Until recently, the detective division was not part of the fleet replacement plan.
They've been incorporated into the fleet replacement plan so that their vehicles can be replaced on a regular basis and therefore be more sustainable and have less maintenance costs. And this was part of our 2021 capital budget.
All right, any questions for Chief Whitney? Mr. Rocco,
None from me.
Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, I have one. You said the vehicle never was in the replacement program. Do you have another source of to get vehicles via the county, federal government? Did they ever supply you with vehicles?
The county has a program as part of their asset forfeiture program. They do provide us with vehicles that have been forfeited from people involved in drug dealing. But those vehicles are limited for use only during drug investigations. So they're not permitted to be used daily back and forth, going to crime scenes that don't involve narcotics investigations. So we do have them and we do use them, but they're not for everyday general use by detectives.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
Chief, does the detective's car get assigned to a detective, or is it for the whole detectives bureau to use?
The supervisor and detectives assigns a car to each detective.
So this isn't a car that'll be assigned to a detective and it'll be his car to take home and take care of?
No, it will be. It'll be assigned to an individual detective so that they can keep their crime scene processing equipment and other gear in the vehicle. And the idea is, you know, when they respond to a crime scene, they have all the stuff they need with them to work.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
All right, I have no questions. Is there any public comment needed, Erica?
No public comment.
All right, is there a motion then to purchase the Ford Fusion from Fred Beans for $20,895?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Rocco, can you pull the board?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mr. Boraski,
Yes.
Mr. Dents,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, item number 12, I believe we're going to table until it's the authorizing the hiring of a Safe City Solutions for the lieutenant exam until we have the entire lieutenant process outlined. Is that correct, Ms. Gallagher?
That's correct. That'll be back in front of you next month with both items.
So I'll make a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 13. Consider authorization for advertisement amending Parks Ordinance Chapter 168, updating Section 17 regarding boating regulations, use of flotation devices, and prohibiting wading. Updating Section 20 as well, prohibiting the release of helium balloons and aerial luminary lanterns in township parks, containing a savings clause and providing for an effective date. Can you explain that to us, Ms. Gallagher?
Certainly, and I believe that Mr. Andrews is here to answer any specific questions, but this is an ordinance that will bring the township's park and rec ordinance in line with the Pennsylvania Game Association regulations. It will require the use of flotation devices for all individuals, not just minors, and it will also prohibit the release of helium balloons and the luminaries that are typically lit on fire. They do present a fire hazard. And it will also prohibit wading in the lake to prevent any possible injuries. And I see Mr. Andrews is here to answer any more specific questions that you may have with that.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Andrews or Ms. Gallagher or Mr. Rocco?
No.
Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, I have one. Do we have any nonprofit events down at the park, whatever it may be, cancer events or whatnot, where they, schedule balloon lifts and whatnot?
Not typically a nonprofit event. We've had specific families doing that in memoriam of a lost one, so forth. But not really any nonprofits that do that now.
Thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
No questions.
Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
All right, I have no questions. Then is there a motion to approve the advertisement amending the ordinance 168?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, thank you. Item number 14. Consider authorization for advertisement amending hazardous substance ordinance, chapter 139, defining residential heating oil storage tank, adding a requirement to obtain a residential mechanical permit to remove or abandon a residential heating oil storage tank, adding a requirement to perform a soil sample and any necessary remediation containing a savings clause and providing for an effective date. Mr. Takita, do you want to take us through this one?
Yes. Currently, the building department has a policy requiring homeowners with underground oil tanks, if they want to remove them, to obtain a permit through the department, as well as provide soil samples after the tank has been removed. This ordinance basically will formalize that policy and make it enforceable through an ordinance. Currently, there is nothing that we can enforce against based on the policy.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Takita, Mr. Rocco,
I have none.
Mr. Palmer,
I have none.
Mr. Boraski,
No questions.
Mr. Galloway,
No questions.
and I have none. And there's no public comment needed, I assume, all right, Erica?
There's no public comment.
All right, so is there a motion to authorize the advertisement amending hazardous substance ordinance, chapter 139?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item 15. Consider authorization for advertisement amending taxation ordinance, chapter 198. Updating section 28 by eliminating the $2 mechanical device tax discount, containing a savings clause and providing for an effective date. Who wants this one? Ms. Gallagher or Mr. Takita?
Certainly, the title of the ordinance mostly speaks for itself. Right now, the township offers a small discount for bills that are paid prior to the end of December in any given year. Very little candidates have taken advantage of this discount, and it is, from my understanding, becoming difficult for the township to keep track of. So this is just going to eliminate the early pay discount. The tax itself will remain the same.
Okay. Another straightforward, self-explanatory one. Mr. Rocco, any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Takita, do we have anyone currently, or do you know of who takes advantage of this?
No, there is no one.
Okay, great.
Mr. Palmer,
Nothing.
Mr. Boraski,
No.
Mr. Galloway,
No questions.
and I have none. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item number 16, consider authorization for advertisement for the 2021 Falls Township Road Improvement Program, which is on Elderberry Drive. Township is going to advertise now. Bids will be open sometime in May. When would construction start? Sometime in June, possibly, Mr. Jones?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, mid-June, June 15th.
All right. Any questions or comments, Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, is this full depth all the way around?
Yes, sir. Full depth reconstruction for Elderberry Drive.
Okay. Is this our first drive we're doing?
Yes, this is the first of the 3 drives that were subject to the design approval we obtained last year. And so this is the first project up for construction for 2021 construction season.
Right, we've done all the inner roads, we just haven't done any drives to date.
That's correct.
Cool. No, that's all I had, thank you.
Mr. Palmer,
Nothing.
Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Boraski, I skipped you.
No questions. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm looking right at your picture, but I have none. So are we going to advertise? Is there a motion to advertise for the 2021 Elderberry Drive Road program?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 17, consider a resolution for the sewage facilities planning module for GSP management. Mr. Takita, is this you or Mr. Jones?
I can take this. The board is being asked to consider a resolution for the sewage facilities planning module for GSP management. They're proposing to connect 124 existing mobile home units across 4 mobile home parks to the existing public sewer in Falls Township. The parks include Delaware Valley Mobile Home Park, Penn Park, Benny's, and the Bel Air Modular Home Park. There are no new units proposed, nor is any disturbance or construction proposed outside of the minimum area necessary to install the sewer lines.
And this was something that came from the DEP, is that not correct? I think before you were around, Mr. Takita.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Takita or for Ms. Gallagher or anyone else? Mr. Rocco?
So this is just for planning, but any construction will be submitted, and right, this isn't for the construction of.
No, this is just for the planning module. This is not for construction.
Right, because I'm assuming they'll probably have to go into the roadways, and it'll probably be a mess down there.
Yeah.
Right, and permits would be required.
Yeah, cool. Go ahead, thanks.
Mr. Palmer?
What authority does all this sewage go to? Is it going to Marsville, or is it going to go to the Township of Falls Authority?
Morrisville, Mr. Palmer.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Boraski?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Galloway?
No question.
All right. Is there a motion to approve resolution? Is there any public comment needed, Erica?
No public comment.
All right. Resolution, this is 11, right, Mr. Takita?
Yes, it is.
Consider resolution number 2021-11. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 18. Consider authorization for advertisement for repealing ordinance 2017-4 and reinstating chapter A214 cable television franchises, section 36, subscriber lists. Mr. Clark, you want to talk about this?
I believe this is one that Ms. Gallagher has a little bit more familiarity than I do.
Certainly. So the board will recall a couple of years ago, the township enacted this section of the code, which would require any provider taking advantage of the township's rights of way and executing a franchise agreement with the township to include certain privacy protections within its general terms and conditions. We have worked with representatives from more particularly Verizon over the last couple of years, and they have provided us with copies of their existing privacy policies, which we believe do provide the same or greater protections that are in the ordinance. So we believe that the residents of the township do benefit from those provisions, and the ordinance is not strictly necessary. So the Verizon has requested that we repeal the ordinance, and that is what is in front of you this evening.
Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Rocco? Mr. Palmer?
Yes. So what is the recommendation from council on this?
Well, Verizon has made a claim that the township is not able to enforce these provisions. And again, they have suggested that they have significant privacy protections in place. So it is the recommendation that this be authorized for repeal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Boraski?
No questions.
Mr. Galloway?
Well, I voted against it the first time while we were repealing it, so thank you.
All right, I have no comments or questions. Any public comment needed?
No public comment.
All right, is there a motion to advertise for repealing this ordinance?
You need a motion?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unopposed. Item 19, consider authorization for advertisement for provisions of cleaning services for Falls Township. Mr. Takita?
Yes, the board is being asked to consider authorization for the advertisement for cleaning services for Falls Township to be put out to bid. The services would be for the township building as well as the two community parks. The township building would be at 5 days per week, and the community parks would be 7 days per week. These services would be in place of the full-time employee that we had formerly that just recently retired.
This is pretty straightforward as well. Any comments or questions from board members? Mr. Rocco?
None from me.
Palmer?
Nothing.
Mr. Boraski?
No.
Mr. Galloway?
No question.
And I have none. Is there a motion to advertise?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item 20, the minutes from February 16th. Any comments or questions or corrections needed? Mr. Rocco, Mr. Palmer, anyone?
None for me.
Excellent minutes as always, Mrs. Poole, and I know it's tough. It's got to be tough doing it virtual. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Engineers report. Mr. Jones, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, you can see that the report for the month of February indicates that there was one new earth disturbance permit submitted. That was for the Kinder Morgan pole barn. That is inconsequential. It's a formality due to the waiver of land development approval. Very minor item. In terms of the updates, as usual, in red under the land developments, Britain Industries on MY Lane is substantially complete. That's been an ongoing project where the mulch piles are stored in some lease areas and stormwater management. MM Metals, they're actually looking for a TCO for the aluminum building, so they've made good progress. The project KA at Fairless Hills, that is a conditional use. That's the Wawa on Lincoln Highway. The applicant has delayed the land development and moves forward with the conditional use because they've added a drive-through lane. So I guess the drive-through lane at Pine Grove Road is successful and they want to add one to this facility. So that project will be before the Planning Commission next week and the board in April for conditional use approval. Alro Steel moves along at a good pace, as well as Airgas. Airgas actually is also inquiring about a TCO at the end of the month to start their production of, getting the air and processing for their various materials. The other point of note would be that Jonathan Way was recommended for denial at the Planning Commission, and they're working on a resolution before they come to the board. Next week's Planning Commission will also hear Lincoln Storage. That's the storage facility down on Old Lincoln Highway. In terms of the earth disturbances, the update would be that St. Francis Cabrini Church project is nearing completion. We have to go back when the weather's right for turf, but everything else is complete. And I briefed you on the Kinder Morgan pole barn. In terms of the township projects, the Quaker Penn Park, we did lose a pile. It was damaged and taken down. So we're working with the dock manufacturer for a repair for that. We may or may not have to replace the pile. As you recall, the last time the piles went down, he engineered solution to use brackets. So that's a work in progress, but we are on schedule for the April 15th opening. The 2019 road program is substantially complete and in the maintenance period. The 2020 road program has resumed. They're working on sidewalks and aprons on Simon's Drive and Elbow Lane. In the 2021 road program, we saw authorization to advertise as you'll recall. Those are my updates. I tried to be brief. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any comments or questions from Mr. Jones? Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, I apologize if you said it. For the 2019 road program, is that unusual on our active list?
I'm sorry, Mr. Rocco?
The 2019 road program, is it unusual that it's still on our list at this point?
No, it just went into the maintenance. It will be off the list for next month, but we typically want to get it into the maintenance period before we remove it.
Okay.
So I'll work with you.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Palmer?
Nothing right now. Thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
And I have none. Is there a motion to accept the engineer's report?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. That takes us to the bill list. Mr. Rocco, do you want to summarize the bill list for us tonight?
Actually, do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Okay, thanks. I don't.
We have a bill list of $1,966,900.35. That's about 1.25, over 1.25 of that is payroll. 180,000 is the road program. Some coming off over 51K, which was the hockey rink payment that we're not doing now. Over $28,000 we paid in salt because of all the snow we had this winter. They're basically the highlights. Is there any questions or comments from board members?
No,
Mr. Rocco,
no, thanks for covering that.
Mr. Palmer?
No, there's a lot of incidentals kind of on there. For instance, $17,000 for police equipment for the just little gadgets that we put in the cars. Everything costs so much money, but it goes out as fast as it comes in, it seems.
Mr. Boraski?
I have nothing.
Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Is there any public comment needed, Erica?
No public comment.
All right, is there a motion to pay the bills then?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Rocco, can you poll the board?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mr. Boraski,
Yes.
Mr. Dents.
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Item number 23, executive session. Ms. Gallagher or?
Sure. The board did meet in executive session this evening to discuss matters of personnel, collective bargaining, and potential litigation.
All right, thank you. That takes us to the police department report. Chief Whitney.
Thank you, Mr. Dent. Okay, looking back at February, we were at minimum staffing. About 37% of the time in February was up slightly from January, but lower than the prior 4 years. That's the breakdown by squad. A lot of the impact to minimum staffing on these squads was due to various officers being in COVID-19 quarantine. They're in quarantine after a potential exposure for 6 days before they could be tested. So hopefully as we get to the other side of vaccinations, we see that less and less. And just to comment, our proactive efforts in order to be effective and they need to be effective and sustainable. And sustainability in this context is dependent upon staffing levels. So that's why this is in here. That's why we look at it all the time, on the police side of the building. If we're going to be proactive and effective, we have to sustain those efforts, and it really all is dependent upon staffing. We had 5 overdoses in February, which brings us to 12 for the year so far. So far, no fatalities. Hopefully that's a trend that continues. And that's our chart. So you can see last year we were slightly up from 2019, but our fatalities were slightly down. So, it remains to be seen how this plays out this year. But, every time I look at this chart, I think you can really see how the epidemic grew to massive proportion and peaked for us back in 2016 with fatalities and in 2018 with the total number of overdoses in the township. That's our calls for service in February for 1,422. And then that breakdown by sector is part of our resource allocation study to determine our sector plan to evenly divide the workflow and provide for patrol to all areas of the township. Traffic crashes, 95 in February. So we're getting back up to pre-COVID numbers now. And arrests, 58 in February. So a total 137 for the year so far. And you can see drug arrests continue to be a high category every month. That's definitely a problem that we're seeing and dealing with out there in the community.
And that drug arrest, is marijuana considered drug arrest still?
It is still. I mean, I think we're all aware that we're headed in a direction where that won't be the case. But we do see that out there. Like I always say, we see a lot of meth out there as well as heroin.
Right. Thank you.
And our hotels, so the Residence Inn did a little better, but not great. They had the same number of calls for service as the Red Roof. That's not a good thing. We continue to work with the staff and management there. I've met with them. We provided them with materials to share with their guests. We've had increased patrols there, at their request, where we've had officers walk the hallways. So, we maintain a higher police presence there. They're good people. They're worried. They don't like this. So we're going to do everything we can to help them. And that's just our arrest data from 2010 to 2020. Again, it lines up very well with our demographics in terms of what our demographics are regarding ethnicity and what the arrests that we make are regarding ethnicity. It's not flip-flopped like you'd see somewhere in the country. We did have some policy updates that went out. The naloxone policy was updated. There's a new form that the county went to that all the police departments use that's electronic. That FTSR is our Falls Township Supporting Recovery Policy, and the QRS policy went out for our quick response service. That's related to our EMTs. And you might have read this. I've got a slide on it later, but we started a daily, blotter of incidents to try to better inform the public of kind of what's going on. That's available on our social media sites and Crime Watch. So these catalytic converter thefts, it's not just us. Our detectives are investigating them. We believe we have several different groups of people out there committing these thefts. And we've had, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 since the beginning of this year. So this is something that we continue to deal with, mostly on Lincoln Highway. Spencer Avenue is right off Lincoln Highway. So they're going up and down Route 1 in the middle of the night and sawing these catalytic converters off cars and then selling them. So this is a group we hope to catch soon, I would hope.
I feel like was this a trend like a few years ago and it kind of went away? And
yeah, you're right. It was. They get a lot of money for them.
Yeah.
So, it benefits them to steal them because it's all profit.
Right.
And, between patrol and detectives, we'll catch them. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
We even teamed up with some other townships to work this together, since it's not just hitting Falls Township. But I thought I would share that with you to kind of show you, what's been happening in the township regarding those thefts.
Yeah, great.
And we did have 2 road rage incidents with guns displayed in February. I think that's just another sign of the stress level in the community. That people are not handling the stress well and waving guns around because of driving behavior, which is silly. Luckily, nobody was injured. And, I didn't put a slide on this, but just so you know, in Trenton, since the beginning of the year, they've had 9 shootings where people have been hit and 1 murder. So they only had 1 in January, but they had 6 in February, culminating with a murder on February 25th, and they've had 2 so far this year. So the violence level across the bridge, it's still high. That's something for us to be concerned about. And we had some other incidents that were just worth mentioning. We had an aggravated assault with a bat. I believe it started as a noise complaint between 2 neighbors at the Commons of Fallsington back on the 18th of February. We had a vehicle fire you probably saw in the paper. It looked like some kind of medical problem. It's still under investigation, but the occupant of the vehicle ended up dying later at the hospital. We had a knife point armed robbery at Village Pembroke, where 1 arrest has been made and another one is pending. And we had a car stop on Lincoln Highway where the guy that got pulled over was wearing body armor and legally carrying a Glock firearm. Why he's driving down Lincoln Highway at night with body armor on, I don't know. But, again, I think it's just another sign that people are stressed. They're not always handling things well. That's just stuff you have to be concerned about. And that's our Crime Watch daily blotter. There isn't always something every day that goes out. Sometimes it's a summary of several days. But, we're doing our best to get more information out to the community about what's going on. That's something that Gina does now on a daily basis.
I've noticed it on the Facebook, so thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for noticing. Just a reminder about our shredder events. So one's coming up in April, the other in October. I believe these are lined up with the drug take back, but I haven't confirmed that yet. That's why it's not on the slide. I think my email got lost for who I emailed up at the county, so I'll have to remind them again. But those events are coming up. And that's it.
All right. Excellent report, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Any, the guy that was wearing the body armor, there was no crime committed. It was just a guy randomly riding down the road wearing body armor.
He ended up getting arrested for a small amount of drugs. So he did catch a charge, as well as, a traffic violation. But why he was wearing body armor and, carrying a gun, who knows? I mean, he was allowed to carry the gun. He had a permit. But the body armor is odd. You kind of almost draw an inference when there's a citizen wearing body armor. Like, what are they expecting to happen? We were not able to determine that.
Strange. Any questions or comments for Chief Whitney from board members, Mr. Rocco?
Yeah, have we, last meeting, we spoke about getting a social worker involved. Is there any given update on that?
You mean in terms of having one on board with the department? I have talked to some other chiefs about that. There's an interest in expanding a program that Ben Salem has going. I talked to Fred Horan about it, and I've talked to the chief down in Bristol Borough. So there are a group of us as chiefs who are interested in expanding that program, but we haven't really taken too many steps down that road yet. It's still in the conversation stage. I think it'd be a great thing to do.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't have someone on ours riding along with our police now?
Not a social worker in a general sense. We have certified recovery specialists
Right.
that work with people who are dealing with substance use issues. But the next step is getting a social worker on board to connect people with other services in the community. Be great to do. Again, it's a matter of funding, and these things work best when we team up with other townships so we can kind of share that burden, and that's what we're looking into.
All right, thank you. Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, two questions, Chief. Out of our force, what would you give a percentage of vaccinated officers?
I'd say it's between 40 and 50%.
Is that due to people just turning it down, or is that just not availability?
A little bit of both, mostly to people turning it down. Not everybody wanted it. But out of the people who did want it, I still have 3 officers that haven't received it. The county has informed me that they've stopped vaccinations because of a shortage in supply. So those officers are still on the list, but we're awaiting the vaccine to be in so that they could be vaccinated. And that was as recent as I think it was Thursday last week. I got that.
Really? Do you need help? Like anything we can do to help you facilitate getting your officers vaccinated? Do you need Matt or somebody to step in and give you a hand, or?
I mean, I'm not sure that there's too much we can do locally. We're relying on the Department of Health and the state to get these vaccines out to all of us. I mean, I've been vaccinated. I'm an EMT, so I went kind of early compared to my officers. But apparently there's a shortage in supply. That's what I'm being told.
Okay. And my second question is, what is our policy with your force with wearing PPE masks when they approach anybody once they leave their vehicle? Are they to be wearing that if they're vaccinated or not? Are they supposed to be wearing their masks or not? I'm not sure your policy.
So when an officer's out in the field, as soon as the any tactical concerns are addressed, that's when they're to put up a mask. So I could tell you today I was on the road. I made 3 traffic stops today, and the officers that backed me up, as soon as they kind of knew what was going on and we knew we weren't going to go hands-on with anybody, I saw them pull their masks up. So that's what we do. We don't necessarily pull it up right away. If we're dealing with a traffic stop or a call for service, we kind of make sure that things aren't going to get crazy first, so you don't have to worry about a mask, getting in the way. But as soon as we realize that the situation is stable enough, you'll see them pull that, typically a gaiter up, and cover their face up. Now, if we're rolling into a situation where either the county tells us that someone's tested positive and we have a code for that at a residence, or it's a medical call where somebody's being resuscitated, those are more high-risk situations, and that's when an officer will wear an N95 mask and an eye covering in order to better protect themselves, including people that are vaccinated.
Thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
I have no comment, but I can add to what the chief was telling you, Mr. Palmer. I was kind of told the same thing because we have We have a few volunteer firefighters that just didn't make the vaccination in time, didn't get on the list. And the state has removed the first responders out of that 1A category. So in turn, the county, just kind of following what they were told to do, took the first responders out. So if you hadn't gotten an appointment from the county as of, I think it was 2 Thursdays ago or something like that, so police and fire at this moment are out of the 1A category and had, in Bucks County or in the state of Pennsylvania. And I was told the same thing from the county commissioner's office. And other than that, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Galloway?
No, a fine report. Thank you, Chief.
Yes,
Thank you.
same. Excellent report, Chief Wilson. Whitney.
Thank you very much.
All right, that takes us to manager comment, item 25.
I have a few items for you. The township received a donation request from Levittown American. The board is being asked to consider the donation, the standard donation of $6,000.
This is something we budgeted for. Any
Yes.
questions or comments needed from anyone?
No.
No.
I had just one quick question, more of a comment. I know I kind of sound like a broken record, but for years now, I've been asking that we follow up with an insurance, proof of insurance and proof of a 501c3, their tax exempt status, before we cut the checks as donations. I don't know where we are with that, but I do want to, just keep asking the same thing over and over. And hopefully at some point, the township can kind of put this into policy.
Is there a motion to approve the donation?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Rocco, can you pull the board?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mr. Boraski,
Yes.
Mr. Dents,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. Next item is the township is being, or the township received an escrow release request from Britton Industries at 1 Mile Lane for $58,006.17. Based on Jones Engineering and Code Enforcement's review, the work has been completed to their satisfaction, and the amount is recommended for release.
All right, any questions or comments needed? Not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Rocco?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Boraski,
Yes.
Mr. Dents,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you. The board is being asked to ratify a declaration of snow emergency that occurred back on February 18th, 2021 and expired on February 19th, 2021.
Okay, that's an easy one. I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then just a couple of quick announcements. The Falls Township 2021 Spring Yard Waste Cleanup will be on Saturday, April 17th. Yard waste must be bagged in 30-gallon biodegradable paper bags or placed in a 30-gallon trash container without lids. They're to be placed outside by 6 a.m. again on Saturday, April 17th, 2021. And it should be put in the same location as your regular trash pickup. There's also a free bulk disposal day, which will be held on Saturday, April 24th, between the hours of 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. This bulk disposal program is for resident homeowners of Falls Township and Tullytown Borough. Proof of residency is required. It is not intended for commercial customers or contractors. The drop-off location will be at Groves Landfill between Waste Management's Turkey Hill office on 1000 Newford Mill Road. This information will also be posted on the township website. Lastly, on April 24th, 2021, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., the Falls Township Police Department will be open to allow you to turn in your unused or expired medication for safe disposal. That is all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Takita. That takes us to board comment. Mr. Galloway.
It's that time of year. We usually have the parade. We had to cancel it at the last minute last year, and we're sure going to miss it. But it we're looking forward to next year, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone.
Yeah. Mr. Boraski?
No comment tonight. Thank you, Mr. Dents.
Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, one fast comment. April 22nd, it's Earth Day. It's a Thursday. I want to see if the township can organize something either with the parks or something. It's something we should definitely get back. It's Thursday, April 22nd.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none, thanks.
All right. A couple things. One, the past couple of days, last week especially, the weather started getting nice. I mean, it's back to frigid today, but a lot of people outside. I saw groups of kids that haven't played outside together for over a year. So, there's a lot of people out now walking and stuff. So just be careful driving as days are longer and so forth. Just be cautious. People tend to walk in the street in groups rather than on sidewalks, which is something I never understood. I also want to comment on trash and litter and dumping in general. Back before COVID, we were having a conversation in the meeting room. I think it was like our last meeting where we were talking about using tag and stuff. So I know I sent out an email about this, direct Matt Takita and Rich Tipolito. We're going to use the Public Works Department. You can coordinate organized trash pickups. We'll have, we'll start, pushing this on social media right away. I mean, back when I was a kid, we had Woodsy the Owl. I don't know if anybody remembers that, give a hoot, don't pollute. But, it's just disgusting. People are ignorant. I mean, they just drive down the street throwing trash out their window. The police department, I know they will target certain areas. So if we find problem areas, we're going to put signs up and we will target them. I know they do find them when they can. It's not their priority because they're busy in Falls Township, but we're going to crack down on trash and dumping in general. So, Mr. Takita, we're going to have him right away get working on this. And it's going to be something we're going to push through on our social media and so forth. Spread the word, put up signs, because it's a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
Mr. Boraski was just talking about Cabot Boulevard and Route 1 superhighway, how disgusting it is. Lower Marsville Road's been a problem for a long time. It looks like people just throw their trash out the window as soon as they get off of that exit there. And it's bad on that hill. And then trees, Mr. Takita, I wish, hopefully you guys can come up with a plan right away on what we're going to do about trees and replacing trees that get taken down and so forth. So hopefully we can have another executive session soon with the board where you can, bring us up to speed on how we're going to deal with this. And even hiring an arborist to evaluate what trees are actually dead and not dead. So I guess that's us directing you to do that.
Understood.
Again, I'm going to mention again Guido Mariani. He's a guy that always was at our meetings. Years ago, he was part of the group when Roland Kenny would come and Gallus Obert and now Guido, and they're all gone now. But Guido, he was always talking about the EIT. For years, he wanted us to get a trash truck to suck up the leaves. I saved and I forwarded the last email he ever sent to me right before Christmas, where at budget time, he told me I was a dummy, that we were a bunch of dummies that were going to pass this budget, but then he wished us a Merry Christmas and God bless us all. So he will definitely be missed. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I was going to say somebody. All in favor?
Aye.